Welcome to the Gaming's Greatest Generation podcast, where we discuss news, reviews, and all things video games with your hosts, the OG Leo Hawley, the overachiever Mark Lombardi, and Mr. Contradiction himself, Matt Harms. Stay tuned for ways to connect with the G3 community, contribute to the show, or tell us about your greatest gaming experiences. Now, let's get to the show.
Welcome, gamers. Welcome once again to another episode of the G3 Podcast. You are here listening to the whole crew coming in, not live. I'm going to cut Matt off before he gets there. But we're coming at you in a pre-recorded live session, if you will. This is for episode 31 of Gaming's Greatest Generation Podcast. We're here recording this, March 18th, Friday, March 18th. And as I said, I'm joined by the whole crew. So you got yours truly, known as Ice, on all things gaming and social media. And we're joined by Papa himself, Mr. Snipe90, a.k.a. Mark. What's going on, brother?
Good evening, fellows. How's it going? Glad to be back for this lovely episode.
And indeed, we are glad to have you, sir. Also joining us in the round table is Mr. MowThemDown, Matt. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Good to have the whole crew in on this one. Let's go ahead and roll right into it.
All right, cool. So rolling right into it. Real quick cleanup note right off the top. Those of us that want to listen to the podcast on Spotify, we took a look at it, and for technical and administrative purposes, we're actually going ahead and unfortunately no longer going to be doing the video portion, at least not in the near future here. If you do want to check us out on video, feel free to go ahead and check out the links in all of the show notes, and you can go ahead and find us on YouTube, which we're more than welcome to have you check us out there. And if you do happen to like what you hear, like what you see, whether that be on YouTube or any of your favorite streaming platforms, feel free to go ahead and give us a rate, pop that big old like button, destroy it, and maybe even consider subscribing. And with that, we're going to roll right into the news. So, stuff coming down this week. Let's get done with the bad. You know, we were talking about it. We knew that it was coming, or at least some of us knew that it was coming, and we talked about it. Stadia is now officially moved over into the corporate style product. So the news coming out of, what was this one? Ars Technica. Basically, as we had suspected and kind of seen the heads turning in that direction, Stadia is pivoting to Google Cloud as an official product, and they're calling it, where did it go again? Immersive Stream. So why are they doing this? Well, let's be frank, and this is more of Ice's insight. They weren't making the money that they thought they were going to do because they had a bad pricing model, a bad business model altogether, that they couldn't get a whole lot of gamers to bite off on. And so now, to make up for a lot of the investment that they made with game servers and whatnot, they have to go ahead and subsidize it by farming it out to companies. So AT&T is one of the biggest and first partners that they have on the ISP side that's going ahead and biting off on this one. And last year they went ahead and they brought out Batman Arkham Knight as a free streaming, although it wasn't meant to be played on mobile, more so maybe on your laptops or PCs. But in the future, it's probably going to go that direction. So this is unfortunate news. I don't know exactly how this pans out for any consumer level, that being gamers that were subscribers to Stadia in the past. Gents, it's not great news, but I think we could see the writing on the wall. Matt, I think you recommended this article for the discussion, so why don't you go ahead and take it away with your thoughts and take on it?
Yeah, it is something that isn't necessarily a super huge surprise. Obviously, we have discussed the sales performance. The subscriber counts are not what they were hoping to achieve. Just didn't really take on like they wanted. But the technology is solid, as we also discussed. So I'm not, hating on the attempt to still consider to, make some revenue on that. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Like AT&T is trying to move into it, but I don't know. I guess I haven't heard any, inkling of what their solid plan is to really utilize that. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But bummer for Stadia, and yeah, hopefully the people that are subscribers that, I guess I don't know, if you're purchasing games through Stadia, but hopefully you still have access to everything that you bought.
Yeah, by all means, if we've got any Stadia subscribers that want to go ahead and that are listeners and want to go ahead and help us out with that, we don't know who to reach out to besides maybe, I don't know, Stadia's PR team. I don't know. And even then, we're probably going to get the sugar coated answer. I want the real deal. And you know who I'm going to get that from? Mark. Mark's going to go ahead and tell us, man, he was standing outside with a picket fence. No more Stadia. You guys are dumb. No, he wasn't doing that, but he did go ahead and give us this hot take. Ready, Mark? Let's hear it.
Rest easy.
Mark said, "Rip, Stadia is done."
Yep.
All right, cool.
Did you have more on to bigger, better things? No. Just we'll see what goes with this Google Stream cloud service, money hungry thing they're going to be throwing out here.
Yeah, they got to feed the engine, but like you said, moving on to bigger, better things, and that's what we're going to talk about next because Microsoft went ahead and officially, as of 4 days ago via PC Gamer, or at least that's where we're getting this, is now set to introduce DirectStorage API to PC. So for those that are unfamiliar, this is more or less the tech that you have in the Xbox Series consoles where you can go ahead and do the quick resume because a lot of the game data rather than go ahead and being stored from a hard drive where it's got to go ahead and get read through the CPU and then pushed out to the GPU for your visual, intake. The storage is actually shared somewhat between the CPU and the SSD, in this case, the NVMe SSD, and it is able to load hella fast, but it also, that's the biggest contingent of it. It's able to load fast and also keep a lot of usage of the RAM, so the game world doesn't have to rely as much on the hard drive where it's stored. I think this was another one that Mr. MowThemDown himself went ahead and brought to the attention of everybody. I went ahead and I was talking about this. I kind of laughed at myself when you brought this up, Matt, because I had brought this up in I want to say it was an Xbox forum as an ambassador. I mentioned that I knew that this was coming, and this was probably close to a year ago that I said this, and everyone in the forum was like, "You're crazy. That's not going to happen. They can't do that." Blah, blah, blah. I was like, "You guys have lost your friggin' mind with all the tech that you find in PCs these days. Of course you can, and of course that's coming." And so, as it was brought up, this is the case. So, Matt, why don't you take it away once again? Tell us how excited you are that you now have your Series X to go ahead and make use of this technology. Well, actually, you guess we need to get you a new PC, don't we?
Yeah. But no, I mean the direct storage thing is great. Obviously, the quick resume feature is one of the kind of biggest selling points, I guess, for them with the series consoles. I'm stunned, frankly, that there were people in the forums like telling you, "Oh no, that's not going to happen," because pretty sure that they made it very clear that direct storage was absolutely coming to DirectX APIs. Like that's really funny, honestly. So yeah, I've known it's been coming since they started discussing it with the consoles because, as you said, how could it not be? How would they not be working on that? Yeah, so just nice to finally see that they're getting around to implementing that. That should be a really cool feature for everybody. So thumbs up.
Yeah, the person that I'm actually terrified to make use of, though, is the next person who we're going to hear from because he's already got, 25-0 up on the friggin' leaderboard on every Halo game we play. So I couldn't even imagine him being able to load things any faster. Mark, are you going to make use of this direct storage API on your PC?
Yeah, sure. I like the sound of it. Big question is, will it help Flight Simulator?
Yeah,
loading times.
You can, quick resume flight sim. Of course, if it is anything that's going to require an online connection, that's where you're rolling the dice.
But, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll say for me because I've used Flight Sim a little bit and not as much as of late, but I have it loaded onto most of my games that I'm getting through Game Pass are loaded onto the 2.5 SSD, the normal style SSD, if you will, not an NVMe drive. But I'm interested to see So I already have pretty good load times, to say that. So I'm interested to see how this will go in the future, because I do have a couple NVMe's M.2 style that I'm trying to spec out and get those, so I can maybe store a handful of games on there, the ones that I'm going to use constantly, and see what that load time is. But don't forget, when you're talking flight sim, the big thing is the updates that it has to get, because
while
that
it's
game
running.
is constantly updating. Well, I mean, while it's running is one thing, right? But like the initial, so I did try it. I don't think we talked about it on last show, or maybe we talked about it offline, but I did actually try Flight Sim via the cloud on the Xbox. And for the life of me, I can't fly with the controller. I don't know why that's a problem, but I can't fly with the controller. But that being said, even though it was loaded on up via the cloud, and it's like, yeah, cloud, like everything is already preloaded and whatnot. It's the most updated version of the game. Flight Sim, I was still sitting there for a good 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It was probably like 2.5 minutes while it was loading in all the after stuff. So some of the latest updates, or maybe it's real time traffic and weather is maybe what that is, because you're doing it on a global scale. So
Right.
I'll be interested to see how that one does too. But what else? What
Yeah.
else besides Flight Sim are you interested in booting
Oh,
up for that?
yeah. All my my favorite titles, of course. I mean, I make use of the NVMe for the bigger stuff we use multiplayer wise. But I mean, like you said, load times are pretty decent currently. But I mean, how much better can they get?
That is a very good question, and hopefully we will find out here in due time. So if you happen to have Windows 10 or Windows 11 being the preferred platform, you too can go ahead and make use of that, gamers. The next news we've got, and something else that you can look forward to, is out of, once again, Microsoft's camp. This news out of VGC. We somehow missed this last week, and I'll take the fault on that one. But Xbox looks set to hold its E3 style showcase in June. So the news, they basically gleaned this from insider Jeff Grubb when he was talking. Where was he talking again? It was on one of a video show that he was on. But he said, but I know, this is a quote, but I know they're planning for an E3 style show in June, end quote. So a lot of the things Jeff Grubb's talked about in the past have come to fruition. And quite frankly, looking at what we had last year with the Xbox, I forget what it was that they called it specifically, what the naming convention was, but it was the Xbox Summer Showcase or something to that effect. And then they essentially had an after show, or an extended showcase, where they went ahead and had some developer interviews and everything, going a little more in depth on some of the games that we had just seen in their E3 style showcase. So not really surprising, since E3 themselves have gone ahead and said they won't have an in-person show. People are very cautious to not say canceled, but they're not having an in-person show. Who knows what E3 is going to do as far as a live format, but I think it's a no-brainer that Microsoft's going to do their own thing, and I wouldn't be surprised if later on we see Sony kind of do theirs, similar to what they did last year, maybe a month or two after, so they can disassociate and steal the limelight on their time. That being said, gents, are we looking forward to E3 this year, at least insofar as what Microsoft's got to present? Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a good move for Microsoft, Xbox as a whole. I feel like every year at E3, it's what's Xbox had to say this year, what's PlayStation have to say this year. So it's kind of their show anyway. So why not try and branch out and give the viewers more than they would during an E3 show. All eyes on them sort of deal, instead of sharing the spotlight.
Yeah, and definitely last year, just like in years past, they still went ahead, and the media outlets went ahead and had more or less of a who won E3 kind of thing, and Microsoft had it hands down. Quite frankly, I felt like a lot of the media outlets were disappointed with what some of the other players on the field were showing out there, because quite frankly, there wasn't a whole lot. But that being said, Matt, you think we're going to have another banger out of Microsoft this year?
I think that's very possible. Obviously, last year was pretty good, went pretty well. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a no-brainer kind of a thing for them to continue to host their own kind of events. E3 is not going to really be a thing. May as well keep the hype rolling. Like, this is a big PR thing. It's why they attend. So yeah, they have to keep going. I'll be curious to see what they've got to show. Obviously, we've had our offline discussions on Perfect Dark, but it'd be interesting to see if they've got anything to show for that. So yeah, it's cool. I'll be checking it out for sure.
All right, cool. And something else we can probably also check out, because they just released some more info on it, is Starfield. So Bethesda went ahead and talked a little bit more. This is the second installment in what they're calling, what was it called again? Well, it's one of their developer diaries.
It's like behind the scenes kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're talking a little bit more about Starfield, talking about the world. The first one talked about lore and backstory. This one talks a little bit more about player. What's the word I'm looking for here? Player options, player investment, and the ability to go ahead and make certain decisions when they're interacting with NPCs in the game. I found it kind of interesting. They said one thing in particular where they look back and they said, you'll see a couple influences of Oblivion in there, which I think we've all played and had good reception of. So I would almost argue, I'm looking forward that this is going to be almost like the one up that we always look for in, let's say, Mass Effect, with the dialogue options and how that played out with things in the story. Matt, you're probably the biggest Mass Effect fan, I would say, here on the podcast. Do you think like that's a fair illusion? Do you think Starfield's going to go ahead and present something like that, or what did you get out of this developer diary?
I mean, I think there are naturally going to be comparisons among the two, or of the two. Like, those are going to be your big, I guess, space epic, RPGs.
Dun, 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 dun.
Right, yeah. The mention of like focusing on like developing good companions or whatever, that definitely rang a note that was reminiscent of Mass Effect. So we'll see what they end up doing with it. I will say some of the stuff that they were discussing in that like sounded good and everything, but sounded very generic and stuff. I'd be curious to see more details of how some of these systems are actually going to work and everything. But yeah, still very curious to see what it's going to be. Even if it's just Skyrim in space, I'm sure it'll still be fun. So good stuff.
And Skyrim in space equals hundreds and hundreds of hours of gameplay. Mark, we know you have plenty of time on your hands for all that, right? So are you looking forward to hopping into Starfield with all this companionship and, like I said, hundreds of hours of gameplay?
No, but I'll give it a shot. I know Matt likes his Skyrim, and Skyrim in space sounds even more enticing. But I'll, just like everything else, I'll pick it up and put it on my list of games.
Get your 40 minutes in, and
buy something else in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll talk kind of along the backlog thing here in an open discussion, if you will, a little later on. But with that, we're going to take a quick pause and we'll be back for more discussion right after this.
Heard something you liked? Maybe you want to showcase a great gaming experience? Or perhaps you just want to share a laugh with the crew. Join the Discord by using the link in the show notes. We look forward to you being part of the community.
All right, gamers, and we're back. So our next piece of news, and something of interest, or at least it caught a couple of us of interest, The Strong, that being National Museum of Play, has gone ahead and announced for 2022 their top 12 finalists for the Video Game Hall of Fame. So pretty interesting. Like, I think a couple of us were a little confused by this one, but this is going to be so this came out of the actual The Strong site. And we can go ahead and link it into the show notes, but it's going to be taking place in New York on May 5th, and there's supposed to be an opportunity for even the public to go ahead and weigh in. But the 12 finalists that are being in competition, or the final selectees for induction into the Video Game Hall of Fame for 2022, are Assassin's Creed, the original, Candy Crush Saga, Dance Dance Revolution, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Minesweeper, Miss Pac-Man, NBA Jam, Parappa the Rapper, Resident Evil, Rogue, Sid Meier's Civilization, and Words with Friends. Now, I'm going to go ahead and burn that 12th one right off the bat, because there's no way you're comparing Words with Friends with some of these other titles. But Mark, I know you've probably played through maybe a couple of these, especially when we're looking over at Ocarina of Time. What are you rooting for here? What do you think should win? And are these maybe a little dated? I mean, I'm sure for a reason, right? Because they're classics. But yeah, give us your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very wide range as well. Like you got some mobile games as well as some old Nintendo titles, and then of course the arcade cabinet games in there. Prepper Rapper, of course, very very classic to my heart. PS1 days, but I don't understand the list. Most of these Hall of Fames or the gaming's greatest whatever, but um the one that stands out, of course, is Legend of Zelda, but I don't know where it could land because, thousands upon millions maybe play Candy Crush for till this day, and it's been out for how many years? So, I mean, it could be like, yeah, Candy Crush Saga, yeah, 2022 Hall of Fame game of the year. And everyone's going to be like, what?
Yeah, exactly. I have a pretty good idea which one Matt's going to root for. But Matt, why don't we give you the opportunity? What are you rooting for here? What do you think about this list?
Honestly, I mean, I kind of agree with Mark's sentiment. Like, I feel like I could make a fairly strong case for any of the games on that list. If anything else, like, I'm astonished that some of those, or maybe a lot of those, are not already, in the Hall of Fame.
Minesweeper, right?
I mean, maybe, right? I mean, if you're talking about like impact on gaming in general, I mean that who amongst us has not played Minesweeper? But yeah, I mean, my vote, despite believing that many of the titles should be in there, if not potentially all of them, depending on, I guess, what all your criteria are. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I mean, come on.
Oh, you got me. I honestly thought you were going to go with Sid Meier's Civilization.
I figured you were thinking that, and I mean, I
there's no
agree
It Takes
that should
Two on
also
this
be
list.
in there.
there's no It Takes Two. So Matt's already in the defeatist mindset. He's like, no, screw the list.
Nah, man. I think maybe all of those deserve a spot or something, but out of the list, if none of them are there yet, gonna have to be Ocarina, of Time.
Yeah, I agree. The same thing. I think Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, like, it's probably one of the most classic. It's one of the most referred to, at least in circles that I talk. It's one of the most referred to ones I hear about. I got some
certainly one of the best games I've ever played.
Yeah, I got some love for Assassin's Creed, but just like so many others on the list, I've got some complaints there too. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think the top 3 or 4 contenders is probably going to be Legend of Zelda, maybe Assassin's Creed, Parappa the Rapper, and maybe Sid Meier's coming in a strong fourth. I don't know. We'll see. But again, we'll find out on May 5th.
Let's lock it in right now.
Let's do it. Let's
lock
do it.
it in.
Ready? Okay. So we want to do it that way? All right.
Obviously, Ocarina of Time. That's one of them.
All right. Cool. I'm gonna make the list right now so we can go ahead and refer to this.
Might as well.
All right, keep going.
Miss Pac-Man. I mean, Sid Meier's, throw that in there. And then the last one, I have a toss-up between Parappa Rapper and Resident Evil. You guys, what do you think?
Matt?
Honestly, it's
like,
hard.
We were doing this.
Yeah, well, and even if I knew, it would be hard for me to really like give you which ones over the others. Like Legend of Zelda would be my top pick for which I would hope out of that list is going to make it. In terms of rankings for the others, it's really going to depend, I guess, on what your voting criteria are. I mean, Rogue is, a pretty instrumental thing for developing the roguelike genre, so that's obviously pretty huge now. Honestly, the mobile titles, although not necessarily my thing, are hugely popular, as Mark has referred to previously. So all of them have their merits. I would honestly maybe put Miss Pac-Man. This sounds horrible, but maybe down a little bit, just because obviously it's essentially just Pac-Man with a bow. Pac-Man's already
Putting her down.
out there.
Sexist.
Yeah,
So sexist.
yeah, right. And I'm sorry. Not that I don't believe it doesn't deserve to be in there. It's just, like I said, I think all 12, have their various reasons why they maybe ought to be, in there. Yeah, I don't know. Legend of Zelda, and then beyond that, whatever, any of them.
I'll make it easy. I'm going to co-sign as well. I think Legend of Zelda is going to go ahead and be the top contender. So there you go, Mark. We've locked it in. G3 is going ahead and saying that it's going to be Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time that's going to be inducted into the Video Game Hall of Fame.
It's in our Hall of Fame, anyway.
There you go. Yeah, the G3 Hall of Fame.
There you go. We should probably, that's a good idea for a segment. We should do that sometime. Just like top 10 games of all time or something.
We could do maybe a yearly roundup of our, game of the year or something. We'll mess around with it. We'll mess around.
We kind of did that last season, but as Matt and I were talking about offline, we're looking for an opportunity to bring in our more of our friend group in here. So maybe that's something that we can do, right? Like the guys that we talk to on a regular basis
could be cool.
aren't maybe as in with what we do here with talking about developers and publishers and all this other stuff, but they play games, right? So maybe they have some valid opinions to consider on, like, hey, what's their top?
Yeah, what's like your top 3 games or something if you had to pick? Yeah. Something.
So something else that we'll take a look at that came out or got announced recently. I don't know if it's Hall of Fame contender, but Hogwarts Legacy. We went ahead and we got to see a trailer for it, and it included gameplay in the trailer. We don't know by way of how good that's going to actually look, because I didn't see anything that said, actual gameplay or recorded on whatever console. But I think it looked pretty good. The game got announced, I want to say 2 years ago. No, maybe it was actually last year was the first that we heard about it. But regardless, Portkey Games making Hogwarts Legacy. Mark, I know you're probably a big Hogwarts fan, right? You're all about the Harrys and the Potters and the. What are you thinking about this one? Are you getting your wand at the ready?
I didn't read the books. I watched the movies. They were enjoyable. The RPG aspect, I think, is a good choice for the game. I guess, of course, you're going to be starting from the bottom, like choosing your house, I would imagine, and then you'll have your own story for that. But
they mentioned that you get sorted, and then you kind of work your way through classes and adventure outside of classes.
Yeah, but aside from that, it's got a kind of a like a fable atmosphere to me.
Ooh, okay.
I don't
know. Interesting take. Yeah, I haven't heard that comparison before. I guess with the fantasy aspect, and you got all the mythical creatures and stuff in there. Okay. All right, and this is I think Avalanche is actually the publisher, if I'm right here. Matt, you're all about the wonderful wizarding world, right? What did you think about? I lied. As I'm pulling up the trailer here in the background, and we'll have it playing for our video listeners or viewers as well. But it does say this is in game, so apparently this is no crap what it's going to look like. So what are we thinking?
I thought it looked very pretty. I was kind of the opposite of Mark. I read the novels and then didn't really watch the films, but I'm at least still somewhat of a fan, I guess, of the novels and the material there. So might be worth checking out for me. I know the Oh, the girl is certainly a fan of the films and the books, so might just pick it up so she can mess around with it. But look pretty cool. I will admit I am a little bit jealous of maybe whatever DualSense implementations are going to be involved with, you know, your spell casting and stuff, whatever that I'm not gonna get to experience. But otherwise, yeah, pretty cool. I'd say it's looking pretty promising. Hopefully,
Well, you never know, right? Because there was talk before. I heard this a while back that they were trying to go ahead and get the drivers so you could go ahead and use the DualSense on PC. Now, whether or not that was used via Steam or through PlayStation Now, that you can go ahead and launch some of those games on PC, or maybe who knows if Project Spartacus is going to have a PC component to it.
Yeah,
Mark,
that
what do you got?
requires these games coming to PC. Sony.
I mean, but that would be cool if they get the DualSense implemented on PC. That would be a nice little bonus.
Yeah, I think there's been quite a clamor for it. And looking at it here, yeah, I mean, the game is going to be coming out PS4, PS5, Xbox One, the Xbox Series consoles, the Switch, that's a little impressive, as well as PC. So you'd think, you know, with Xbox, if it says both the Series consoles and PC, that they're going to have it available at some point via the Windows platform, Game Store or something to that
Game
effect.
Pass.
Yeah. Well, you know, we'll see. We'll see. We got surprised recently with a couple titles that went straight to Game Pass. Tunic. But so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the news section, and we're going to talk about something that is newsworthy, but not necessarily news itself. So the next big segment here, it's all over the headlines. You guys have probably seen it. It is the one, the only, the mythical beast that is Elden Ring has gone ahead and captured pretty much everybody's timelines, everybody's video feeds. I have been asked by someone on the podcast, who shall remain nameless, to use their feed on what they were playing, some pre-recorded stuff. But that being said, you know, this thing is a monster. I think, at least from my take, looking at it right here off the top, you got on both the Xbox Series X as well as PS5, the game received a 96 on Metacritic. I believe we saw on PC it got a 95, and I think that was just some of the implementation and the frame rate issues that they're having on PC. But then if you go ahead and you look on OpenCritic as well, which we don't do on the show usually, but we figured, we'll give it a shot. A lot of the marks it's getting, it's a top critic average of 96, a critic's recommendation of 98%. Then when you look it down across the board through all the media outlets, PC Gamer gave it a 90 out of 100, IGN 10 out of 10, Metro Games Central 9 out of 10, Games Radar 5 out of 5, Easy Allies, I haven't heard of them before, honestly, 9.5 out of 10, and Game Informer and GameSpot both gave the game a 10 out of 10. Guys, is this, you know, Mark, you're the leader on the team here that's gone ahead and had the most hours in this. Is this thing a Game of the Year contender? Should we just close the books? No more entries. We already know who's going to win. Not It Takes Two.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree and say yes. I didn't beat it yet. I got a couple of hours in. It's a massive open world game, which everyone loves. It's pretty to look at. I don't know how far Matt's been into it so far, but it's easy to get lost in the game. It's not very forgiving, so you will die a lot. It is my first Souls type game, I should say. It makes me want to play the other ones. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, it's easy to, just wander around and, find something new and, get ambushed by such and such and get wrecked and cry and then do it all over again.
Damn right, get wrecked, son, and then start all over again. Go back and collect them souls. So Matt, this thing, it's arguably more approachable than the previous Soul games because of its open world nature. And a lot of folks have said, I literally before the show was listening to a couple folks talking about they have over 100 hours in the game and they still have barely tapped into like 50% of the map. So Where are you at as far as Elden Ring playthrough stuff, and what's your take on it since you've played some of the Dead Souls or the Dead Souls stuff before?
Dark Souls.
Dark Souls. Thank you,
Yeah,
misspelled.
I've made it out of the tutorial, and then I ran away from a bunch of big ass monster things that I didn't want to fight with my club. So yeah, I haven't played a whole lot of it yet. Shamefully, I've been pulled away by other games distracting me. That Marvel, Guardians of the Galaxy. It's actually been pretty engaging. It's been a fun little ride. So I'll get through that and then try and get back to Elden. But yeah, it's obviously been very well received, highly praised from critics and fans alike, and I would have to agree it's going to be a strong contender for Game of the Year. I mean, even this early in the year, I don't know what else is going to come out that's really going to blow people away in quite this overwhelming fashion. I guess if Starfield's actually going to come out or whatever and has the level of polish that they need to have and it rocks everybody's socks off, they might make the cut, I guess, for consideration. But
Yeah, I think that would make for, admittedly, I haven't got to dive into it yet, but all the reviews I'm seeing is good. All the feedback that I'm hearing about the game is great. But I agree wholeheartedly that if we talk, top five for Game of the Year contenders, Elden Ring has definitely earned its place already up there. There's a lot of folks that it's kind of funny because some of the circles that I've listened to, they've gone ahead and not necessarily poo-pooed, but been almost dismissive of Horizon Forbidden West because you can take about 100 hours or so if you really dig in and play through it casually, but to a completionist standard. But folks have argued that that's like a one and done kind of playthrough, whereas Elden Ring, you kind of go back and there's other stuff and you can go over and over and dedicate a lot more than 100 hours in there. I guess if you will, kind of like on the hot take side, I'm going to imagine what we're going to see already for some Game of the Year contenders in that top five. It's probably going to be Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West. If we see God of War Ragnarok come out this year, I'm still not convinced that that's going to happen.
Lock it in.
And then lock it in, and then Starfield. So I don't know what could be in there for number five. It'd be really great to see something on a Nintendo go ahead and make it in there, but short of going ahead and ghost drop in Legends of Breath of the Wild 2. Yeah, see, I like my Kirby. I like me some Kirby, but I don't know if it's going to hold up against those heavy hitters. Maybe, but
we'll see what Tiny Tina's Wonderland gives us.
All right, cool. So we're just going to pass that up altogether. With that being said, we are going to take another quick break, though, and we'll be back for a little bit further discussion right after this.
Want to contribute to the show? Maybe you want to try your chances at a question being aired? Give us a call at 702-690-9292, and you might find yourself so lucky.
All right, gamers, and we're back. So if you're just playing catch up, we went ahead and we talked about the news. We even talked a little bit about Elden Ring and how we're enjoying it, how everyone else is enjoying it, and if we think it's actually going to make it to the top of the Game of the Year. But Elden Ring isn't all we've been playing. So today, kind of rounding out the show, what we wanted to do, because it seems to be the plight that we're dealing with here over the first quarter of 2022, is there such a thing as too many games? So we're going to go ahead and kind of leave it, as I said, for open discussion. But we're going to start it off with Mark. Mark, kind of generally speaking, what you've been playing, what have you been trying to play, and do you believe that there's such a thing as just too many games?
Yes and no. As you both know, I have a library, physical and digital, titles. I think I've counted I don't even remember my 360 games back in the day. It was some stupid number. I'm like, how did this even happen?
Over 9,000.
But I got them all in storage boxes. I recently told myself the past couple of years that I'm going to move to digital just for that fact of, I don't want all this stuff laying around and, But yes, too many games at one time. I wouldn't say too many games overall. It's just they're putting out a lot of bangers at the same time. Don't have time to play everything, as much as I want to. I have Elden Ring. I have Dying Light as of right now. I still have to finish. What is it? It Takes Two with the wife. Finish that. Well, yeah, So yes, and then I got Kirby coming out this month. I got Mario Strikers next month. It's just an ongoing, drug.
Yeah, it ain't no joke. It's a pretty expensive, but also worthwhile hobby if you get into it. Matt, where are you on this thing? Are you treading water? You drowning? How's
Oh,
your game
yeah. I mean,
fortitude looking there?
the backlog is real. It's one of those things. The industry has grown, and so you gotta feed the beast, so to speak. So they gotta keep pumping them out. It's oversaturation of a good thing, as you see with any and every good thing, I guess. There's a lot of junk that's just thrown out there just to try and make a buck, but there are also a lot of quality games that are coming out all the time, and yeah, I mean, obviously they're all competing for your dollar and for your time. It's tough, man. We all enjoy this stuff. We want to be able to play and experience everything, but anymore it's like it needs to be your job if you're going to try and play everything, because man, yeah, like you got one thing after another coming out, and it's 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 not possible, man. Everything is 500 million hours now, and a live service, and
I need
yeah,
everybody
it's
who's listening to take note because 31 episodes, and this is probably the most optimistic that we've had, Matt.
but yeah, man, it's a lot. It's overwhelming, and I don't think it's gonna get better in a sense of like you're gonna have more time to do anything. Once we're all old and retired, gents, that's
Yeah.
when we're
Well,
gonna
like
get
you
it in.
said, I mean, these massive app. That's their selling point. It's like, yeah, 100+ hours in this game, 100+ hours in this game. But I mean, it's just these games are getting so large. I mean, before, what, 8 to 10, maybe 12 hours, finish a campaign and clean a couple things up. Now it's you're sitting in front of your screen for years, going back and forth through these games. So
Yeah, to that point, I think one of my favorite games of all time. I actually had to look it up. I was trying to think of it. It was of all things, Activision Blizzard or Activision published, or no, was it Activision or Acclaim? I can't remember now off the top of my head, but it was a Spider-Man game that was out on Super Nintendo. I want to say it was Spider-Man Total Carnage, and it was the one that had Carnage and all these other. But I looked it up in like how long to beat, and it said the game was only like 16 hours or something like that. And I still to this day remember that game very fondly as, having really good weekend or weekends playing that game. I love that thing. And here it wasn't that long. We went ahead and all of us, to some degree or another, have played It Takes Two. Not a super long game, but for everything that they invested in story and audio and the game mechanics and everything, I think overall it was a pretty good game. Everybody kind of said that consensus. I didn't say it was game of the year, but I thought it was awful funny. I was going to argue with Matt offline because I went ahead and I pulled up the socials, that being Twitter, and randomly this one guy had tweeted something to that effect, like just finished It Takes Two, my husband, and I get what everybody's talking about, but I don't know about game of the year though. And it was just a running log of comments and replies that everyone agreed, like, yeah, it was good, but I don't know if it was game of the year good. And so I found it kind of interesting that all you saw online was like, the game's amazing, blah 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 blah. And here I had, maybe it was the the collection, I'll just say that word as probably the politest one, the collection of folks on social media who were of the same mindset as me. Now, insofar as is there such a thing as too many good games? Yeah, 100%. I'm going to agree with Mark that I think it all comes down to timing. The fact that these developers went ahead and what did we have? What did we have in January? Hold on. I know we had some good stuff. January, we had, what were the big ones? God of War PC came out, and we've heard nothing but great things of that. You had Rainbow Six Extraction that came out, and that's been surprisingly well received. We've even played a little bit of that, and that did pretty good. Let's see. Pokemon Legends Arceus? How do you pronounce it, Mark?
Arceus.
Arceus? Okay.
Arceus.
Cool. So you got that. You got Uncharted Legacy of Thieves that came out too. February, you had the Life is Strange Remastered Collection. What's some other bangers that came out? Crossfire X. I was just seeing who was paying attention there. A lot of the Kingdom Hearts stuff. You had Assassin's Creed, the SEO collection came out on Switch. So for our Switch users, that was a great thing. Destiny 2 Witch Queen. That's a wrap. February's a wrap. And then we also had Dying Light 2 in February, right? That came out in February or in beginning of March?
Yeah, I want to say it was February.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk 2077, March
and April were going to be a little rough.
March and April, specifically March. March is basically, I think they all had a discussion. They all have a group me or a Slack chat or something where all the game developers are talking. They said, hey, it'd be a really great idea if we just drop all of our titles in March just to round out Q1, whether that be their fiscal year or whatnot. Because we've seen Shadow Warrior 3, Gran Turismo 7, Triangle Strategy, Matt's beloved yet untouchable favorite. We got Grand Theft Auto 5, the new gen, next gen version just popped off. Tunic, I'm just going to root for Tunic. I just started playing that, and I think it's awesome. Where we go? Ghostwire Tokyo, Kirby and the Forgotten Lands, as Mark alluded to earlier, Tiny Tina's Wonderland. So, I think it all comes down to timing. If you're going to go ahead and put out all these bangers, try to think of the consumers. The only caveat to that being not every title is going to be for everybody, right? We are more on the prosumer side, so we go ahead and try to play a lot of things. But I'll tell you, there's certain things, as I imagine you guys would. There's maybe certain genres that don't hit for me, but to be able to try and keep up with it, it's a busy hobby, right?
Yeah. So something I would say I definitely agree with, the trying to get it in before the end of the fiscal year. That's certainly a motivating factor, but part of it is also, especially why you see everything released roughly in the same kind of time frames throughout the yearly rotation. It's because they're trying to base it around when they know that people are going to be most prone to trying to pick up a new video game. So beginning of spring kind of thing, you're looking for maybe younger kids going on spring break. Hey, cool, I can pick up something, a new game to play. Same kind of maybe moving into summer or whatever, but primarily it's all the holiday rush and everything because people are buying them gifts for the holidays and everything. There's strong incentives there for them to kind of push those timing windows for release. Mm-hmm. I don't think you're going to see that go anywhere. You know what I mean? So,
which is interesting because, per the current game list, the only late game this year is Starfield around holiday side, which is very odd to me.
Well, yeah, they moved some stuff, right? You got however early you consider the holiday purchase in. They got Saints Row. They got I think that one was pushed back from its original date. That's August 23rd as of right now.
Yeah, originally it was supposed to release in February, so it got pushed back. But
Forspoken that got pushed to October 11th. Gotham Knights coming out October 25th. Starfield November 11/11/22, right? Stalker 2.
Surprise, it's a Call of Duty game.
Yeah. Stalker 2 December 8th. So that one I'm pretty sure that got pushed back from this summer, and I don't know, that one's in a very peculiar situation, right? Because of the developers and what's going on over there in Eastern Europe.
I imagine this is going to take a toll.
Yeah. And as we, kind of our final segment that we usually do. with Release Radar, we go ahead and we talk about some of the things coming up. And so looking at our list, which we get from at least the one I'm looking at is Game Informer, there's a lot of stuff that's still to be announced insofar as when that's coming out. And it's kind of that is even more of an intimidating list than what we have seen go ahead and already release. So I got a pretty good feeling that the rest of the year is going to be pretty packed, environment permitting. And I say that obviously because we've seen a bunch of delays, and maybe that's part of why we've seen the timing impacted this year, because so many of those games were maybe delayed from Q3 or Q4 last year even, right? But so getting into it, let's take a look here. We said March 18th. So we just had Shredders come out yesterday. Today, Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin coming out on PlayStation 5, 4, Xbox Series, Xbox One, and PC. I've heard nothing but crazy fan base about that one. Kraken Academy coming out March 22nd on the Series consoles, Xbox One, and Switch. Rune Factory 5 coming out on Switch March 22nd. Memoir Blue coming out on PlayStation 5, 4, Xbox Series, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on March 24th. The Ascent coming out, so that was a previous Xbox release, coming out on PlayStation 5 and 4, March 24th. Ghostwire Tokyo coming out on March 25th. And that actually, what else? Yep. Kirby and the Forgotten Lands, also on Switch on March 25th. And by the way, Ghostwire Tokyo is on PS5 and PC. And Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, PlayStation 5, 4, all the Xboxes. Let's just say it that. All the Xboxes that you probably be worried about. Yep. And PC. And that's also coming out March 25th. Holy cow. You got at least 3 bangers right there at the end of the next week with the Ascent, Ghostwire Tokyo, and Kirby.
I think I'm going to get the Death Stranding's Director's Cut.
All right.
I see. Mark's over here jumping all the way to the end of the month. Death Stranding Director's Cut coming out March 30th. Mark, you got to save something for the next show, baby. But yeah, so all those things are available.
It's close enough.
So with that, go ahead, and we're close enough to the end of the episode. So Mark, why don't you go ahead and take it away? Let the people know what you've been playing, where they can find you, and all the good things and good energy you're putting out into the world.
Well, you can find me here, of course. Usually here, I should say. Miss a couple here and there, but I love the fam. Love to be here. Love to talk about what makes me happy. So, got my birthday coming up on Monday.
I was gonna mention that if you
exciting
didn't.
times. So it's
something pretty, people.
Yeah, big birthday for me with the new edition and all that stuff. So, little baby boy, a legacy can live on. But of course, trying to get back into Elden Ring, mainly. I do recall that last time we played Halo, I was sucking really bad, so I need to brush up on that. Yeah, that's it.
All right, cool. Matt, bring it home. Tell the people what you've been playing, where they can find you or not find you.
I mean, yeah, I'm still the lurker, but I've just been playing the Guardians of the Galaxy game here mainly. It's thoroughly enjoyable thus far. There are things I could nitpick about or whatever. Primarily, the combat's maybe not as deep as it could be, but it needs to have that mass appeal. It's still fun. Yeah, it's been very enjoyable so far. And the fact that I can play it through Game Pass is even better. So that's what I've been up to.
He said free 90, free, or at least with your subscription, right? So again, you're truly known as Ice on all things gaming and social media. I have been quite a bit absent on the Xbox front as well as PC front for that matter this past week. I went ahead and was it last night? Yeah, I think last night I just platinumed the Spider-Man remastered on PlayStation. So for those who have the game, they know that that's just one piece of it, right? So I'm about halfway through the 3 DLCs, and then once I probably wrap that up sometime this weekend, I will most likely take a break before going back and doing the New Game Plus to absolutely 100% that thing. And then, I most likely, as I stipulated, will probably hop into Miles Morales just to keep my Spider-Man fix going. That being said, I've also been doing a little Slay the Spire, on occasion there. Let's see. What else? We played Halo last week. I don't remember if that was before or after the show. And I did go ahead and bite the bullet, and I'm sorry, I supported them again, and I bought the new gen, next gen, whatever you want to call it, upgrade for GTA 5. So I played through that for about a half hour or so, and fidelity, or what is it, performance RT mode. That's a pretty little bit right out. But yeah, so we'll see what's going to happen coming up, and insofar as where you can find me again on the socials, what I'm doing. Hopefully this weekend I'll actually be working to bring a project we've been working on across the finish line. So we'll see how that works out. I heard somebody got something. No?
The project.
The project. Yeah. Y'all will know about it. We'll be talking about it, singing from the rafters if we can go ahead and finally get that thing to come to fruition. Anywho, with that, once again, Gaming's Greatest Generation can be found on all of your audio streaming platforms as well as on YouTube. Feel free to go ahead and drop a ratings, hit that like button, give us a subscribe if you feel so inclined. And remember, Gaming's Greatest Generation is the one you guys are a part of.
Thanks for listening to the Gaming's Greatest Generation podcast. We hope you enjoyed your time with us today. If you have any feedback for the show or would like to contribute ideas, feel free to call 702-690-9292 or email us at gamingsgreatestgeneration@gmail.com.